Yeah. Um, like Hobbs said in a conversation we had the other day, I hate running, but I love eating. And so if I'm going to love eating, I've got to do something to counter that eating. And so that's why I run. It's because I know if I don't run, I'm going to gain a lot of my weight back. And
welcome to the Banter. I'm Dave, my man Hobbsy. We are sponsored by Berserk Athletics for your team custom uniform needs. Welcome to the show today. We got a guy that we have known for a while, Mr. Dustin Danner. What's going on, buddy?
hey, man, it's living life, man. Loving it as much as I can and about ready to get these boys out of the house and
Yeah.
see where life takes us.
Hey, I hear. I was actually going to be a smart ass, but I couldn't quite. I was like, since you're a high school teacher, make you feel at home, put my hood up like all the kids do nowadays.
Actually, nowadays they got me doing elementary PE and computers.
Oh, Lord.
I don't get the attitude.
So I was going to put the hood up, but I couldn't quite. It was over the headphones. It was a little tight fit, so I decided not to go with it. Make you feel a little bit at home being the teacher and all.
Yeah.
So Excelsior Springs, high school.
No, I was at the middle school for 7 years. Now I'm doing elementary PE and computers.
Nice.
Yes.
And what is that transition been like?
Man, a blessing in disguise. I am now the coolest person in the world to those kids.
Yeah.
I walk through the hallways and it's Coach Danner all the way down.
Yeah. Well, hey man, like it is. I have a lot of respect for teachers. I've gained more and more of it since COVID. And don't get me wrong, I love my kids to death and understand schooling is needed. But sometimes I wish you guys as teachers had them more than I did because they drove me absolute nuts. I'm not going to lie.
We heard that a lot during that time. And yeah, that happened quite a bit.
What year is this of teaching?
This is year 23 in education for me.
Nice.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
23. And you still coaching high school sports?
Actually, no. I took the year off last year because in Excelsior, well, not necessarily Excelsior, it was my son's senior year, my oldest son's senior year of baseball, and I was the JV baseball coach, and they played on the same day, different places a lot. And I just, it wasn't worth it to me to miss any of his senior year to go coach JV level. So I hung it up, and I'm not coaching anything right now. There might be a few things coming up here in the next couple of years that I might be coaching, but I don't know right now. I'm loving it. I get to go home every day after school and work out, run, or do whatever I want, and it's pretty darn nice.
Go ahead,
who's the announcer for the Fighting Tigers these days, though?
I'm still announcing. Yes, I am the voice of Tiger football, Tiger wrestling, and Tiger.
By the way, you do a great job at that tournament in Excelsior for the wrestling.
Well, I appreciate it.
I don't know how you can keep all them dudes kind of in a row and going because they're so fucking hyped and just raring to go. And I was watching you, and I'm sitting there going, I'm like, dude, I don't know how Dut's not losing his shit. You know, I saw Ricky and Scotty down there, and I'm like, they're just chilling, and Dut's trying to be like, hey, get here, get over here. 106 pounders, stay put. 275 pounders, don't walk over me. Go over there.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And speaking of those heavyweights are a lot different than they used to be. Back in the day when we were in high school, most heavyweights were I guess you could say, well-rounded. Some of those boys are just ripped now. It's totally different for a lot of them.
Yeah.
That one kid from Kearney is He's not a heavyweight, but
he's 190 pounds, and
that dude is an absolute unit.
yes, he looks like a grown ass man wrestling little boys.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous. Now I see that your is the youngest would be your youngest. He's starting, or he's in his senior year right now, correct?
Yeah, he's in his senior year. He's having a good year. He's got one more tournament next week or tomorrow, and then another duel next week, and then districts are 2 weeks from today. And he's a 3-time state qualifier, finished 4th last year. But he's got a tough road this year. He's got 2 state one state medalist, another kid who's a freshman who he's gonna be a top 2 in the state in his district, and a couple other state qualifiers are highly ranked kids. So he should get back to state, but if he didn't, it wouldn't be surprising because there's some good kids in his bracket. Top 4 in districts go, and there are 4 or 5, maybe even 6 who are good enough to make it. And so, I mean, his freshman year, he shouldn't have made it, but he caught 2 guys and advanced. In the sophomore year, he won the bubble match to go to state like in the last 5 seconds. And then last year he took 4th at districts and then had a great run at state and took 4th there. But he's got his hands full, and we expect him to go. But if he didn't, like I said, we wouldn't be surprised. He's got to get on the mat and take care of business.
Yeah. So, your oldest boy is playing college baseball.
Yeah, he's pitching at Park.
And then you have this one who does he have the senior in high school is wrestling. Does he play baseball also?
Nah, he gave it up a couple years ago.
So is he just wrestling only?
Yeah, he's just wrestling, and he's ready for that to be done. He's
no college aspirations for a sport, wrestling.
To be honest with you, if he was sitting right next to me, he would probably say, "Fuck no, I'm sick of wrestling. I want to be done." He hates it. He told me last summer that he wrestles because I want him to wrestle, and so kind of felt bad about that. But he's pretty good at it, and so
hey man, if he's riding it out the last year, so you know, and the fact is too, they'll tell you too, it's crazy because he is a senior and he's wrestling at 126.
Yeah,
so cutting weight like that's a discipline that I would absolutely fucking hate it too.
Yeah, I think he's probably 6'1" and wrestling 126 pounds, and
he's just like mine.
That's the size of my thigh.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the size of one of my legs right there. I do have a question, since you have a kid who's doing pretty well in the sport, and you just talked about cutting weight. I know that there's been some always negativity towards cutting weight. What's healthy in cutting weight and what's not healthy in cutting weight. I have seen some major ways from when I was in school how some guys cut weight. I know you're a big avid health person, and you're running and you're doing all that stuff. What kind of stuff do you keep an eye on to make sure that he's staying healthy with it when he cuts weight?
Hydration for one. I mean, and that's kind of an oxymoron because a lot of the weight they have is water weight.
Yep.
Yes, sir. They have to be careful with what they eat. And he actually he lives with his mom, so I don't really know a whole lot about his diet. So I don't know what he does, but he's pretty consistent with being able to do what's supposed to get done. And like I said, there's just been that one time he didn't make weight, and he's been wrestling 26 his sophomore, junior, and this year. So he's held on to it and done all right with it.
That's good, because go ahead, Hobbs.
I got one sitting here right now that's he was, I don't know, a 0.1 over, so he's fine, but is eating fucking pineapple. That's his dinner. So we're hammering a whole pineapple. So I'm like, but I mean, that's the same thing, man. He's staying where he needs to, but that Monday, Tuesday each week is always. Then they seem to be able to get it balanced out. By Wednesday, Thursday. Once they hit a certain age, though, like and Dave, this kind of probably helped answer that question a little bit. Is I know they regulate a lot of how they can cut weight now. Like it's a lot different than like back in our days. I know like there's a body mass index thing they do and stuff, and you can only cut a certain amount, and that's that. Like once you hit high school, like you can either be here or here, but they'll tell you what's healthy now and what's not, and they don't let you cut anything after that. Like they're like, you're gonna have to wrestle here, and then they have to make that choice, and that's where you start seeing them. And I know this year, I know that with some of the guys in Excelsior. I know Lawson's had some of the issues, and then it's been a lot of guys this year. Anything I've been to, tournaments or a lot of duels and tries and stuff. It seems this year a lot of kids for some reason are having a really hard time cutting weight. Like we went to one couple, it was when it was snowing out crappy out in Gallatin, and I think one of the schools had 8 kids not make weight. So I mean, it's even now it's tough.
We can go round and round about how kids are these days, and
we do it a lot. We do it a lot on here.
I can tell you, a lot of kids will make weight the day of their meet and then just eat and eat and eat. And so they'll gain 4, 5, 6 pounds and then start the whole process over again on the day or two before they have to make weight again for the next. So it's the lack of responsibility with a lot of the kids. It's like they know what they need to do, but yeah, I'm hungry now, so I'm going to go ahead and eat, and I'll just deal with it whenever I have to.
It's tough discipline for sure.
Oh yeah.
I know, and I recall some of the ways. I mean, when I was in school, that guys taking laxatives. A lot of them just pure starving themselves. Basically, now had like I said, take the laxatives and they put the sauna suits on, go sit in steam showers and steam, and then they run and run and run. And I'm just like, how is that? And then you see them in, just like drained. Just to go step on a scale. And then the minute they get off the scale, it was, let's pound everything and everything. Cheeseburgers, pizza, then it's like, then you're putting all the unhealthy stuff back into your system anyway.
Man, that's and you blow up fast.
Yeah. Well, just like him last year at the state tournament, and in wrestling on January 15th, you get 2 pounds. So actually he wrestles 126. So now he can weigh 128. But so at the state tournament, 2-day tournament, so they have to weigh 128 up the first day of weigh-ins. The next day they get another pound, so they could weigh 129 the second day of the state tournament. 2 days after the state tournament, he weighed like 143 or something like that.
Oh wow!
From gorging himself.
That was Braden right after state last year. I think he put on, like, he weighed, because obviously they go right from wrestling to baseball if they go to state. Like, you go right into it. There's no break. You're in it. I think Braden last year, I want to say he put on 10, 15 pounds in like 3 days.
Oh, no doubt.
Like 113, and then he was up to 120, 122, I think. I think the most he got was maybe 124, but that was, I mean, in 2-3 days. So
that body welcomed that food in. It's like, you're going to stay for a while. Welcome. Stick around.
Took him to the hibachi right after it, and he was like, oh, yeah.
Which, you have this one who wrestles, and then you have the older one who plays baseball.
Yes.
How is that transition coming about for him? He's a freshman, correct?
Yeah, he's a freshman. He's let's see. He's working hard. He's going to be currently going to be on the JV roster. he's doing a lot of work on his own, and I think they've been going 2 or 3 weeks now, and their varsity heads to Dallas here in 2 weeks, and then there's some like Central Methodist. They played today.
Yeah, actually.
Oh, that's right. We talked about this the other day.
Yeah, we talked about that. Who else played today? UCM played today. Ottawa's played a series already.
Yeah,
they go down to Florida.
Yeah,
they were down in Florida.
Yeah,
in the nation last weekend. Yeah,
you had and this is what I love about the college game. You had Avila started today. We had Mo Valley playing St. Mary's from Leavenworth today. They had a doubleheader.
Man, have you been up to St. Mary's?
Yes, I have.
Man, that is a beautiful field with a horrible facility.
Yes,
it is ridiculous.
It is. Yeah, it kind of. It's the camp. I had a cousin who actually graduated college there, and I mean, if you've ever, I don't know, Hobbs, if you've ever been up to the campus, you take the brick road up, and then it's like you're going up to the college, and then off to the side, you just see the softball and baseball field are absolutely amazing looking, and then the facility, and then the rest of it's just kind of you can't explain. So it's pretty weird, but they have beautiful field.
Yeah, field of dream and a palace of shit.
Pasture to get to the field, and it's sitting right there, but you still have to walk through a pasture.
Yeah,
almost.
You have to walk down the hill. To get to the field. So, and then you have to walk like almost 50 yards just to get down the hill. Then, it's crazy, but it's a lovely field. And then you go on the backside, and the football field just looks amazing. So, but yeah, it's great to see all the local schools get started up. I know Division I starts here in a couple of weeks, so all the smaller schools right now are getting all started up. JUCO,
I love it. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, you have JUCO started up. I believe we have, from the Missouri and Kansas side, I think we have like two or three ranked junior colleges. So baseball around here is going great. And but what kind of things is he facing that he didn't face, say, high school and even playing tournament ball, competitive ball, that he's now starting to see in his face? That's like, oh, I heard about it, but didn't think it was it.
Well, he's sitting right next to me. Do you want him to hop on here too?
We can hop on there too. It doesn't matter. He wants to.
Yeah, a little bit. I actually, it's funny. Yeah, what's up, buddy? It's funny. So at the wrestling the Excelsior tournament, I got to have a really good conversation with him about what you just asked, and got to really chop it up about baseball. Hell, I don't know how long we talked, but I missed a lot of wrestling and was enjoying that conversation a lot more than I was enjoying wrestling. Yeah, hell yeah, it was a good talk, man. So I'm glad you get on here with me, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, I know you probably don't remember me, but I remember you being the little guy that was around your dad when your dad and I used to play slow pitch with one another. And to see you growing up, man, now you're playing college ball is amazing, man. Keep it up. What are some of the challenges you're facing, young man, going from the high school ranks in the competitive tournament ball scene now to the college scene?
I'd say a lot of it is the fact that I am 19 years old, and I'm competing for a job with guys that are 22, 23, 24, even a guy that's 28. So it's like they're just like physically stronger than me, and then I kind of got to adapt to that. And another thing is college hitters are so much better than high school hitters. Like it's just it's so crazy to process. Like you have to be way better. Like you have to execute way better. Like it's just a total different game.
Now you're also thinking about you're playing college baseball, which is you, my friend, are one of the elites that have the privilege to play at that level. Now, yeah, Park is a smaller college, but just think how you feel with that if you would have stepped onto a D1 campus.
Oh yeah, I mean those guys are freaks. Like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. We have a guy. He's a bounce back from Jackson State, and even just him, like he's just a freak. Like he's bigger than everybody, stronger than everybody. He's just like on that other level that most guys aren't.
Now, are
Uh,
you taking it? Are you taking everything in? Are you absorbing as much as you can, or what is it that are you picking the brain of the the upperclassmen? What are you doing to try to make yourself get better to be able to perform at that level?
I'm doing a lot of kind of following around. Like I find guys that I've kind of figured out they know what they're talking about, and you kind of
Mm-hmm.
just follow them around and just listen to their conversations. Like, and one thing I don't think a lot of people understand is like if someone else has a question, like it's still viable for you to listen because then you can still learn something from that, even though it's not your question. So I think just surrounding myself with guys that I know have been around the game longer than I have too. And they know more. They know more about how to succeed in college baseball than I do. So just kind of picking their brains and learning what works for them is like helping me figure out like how I can get better and what'll work for me in the future.
Keep that shit up too, bud. Be a sponge.
Yeah, I mean I mean, like I said before, and I had many conversations. Uh, y- Believe it or not, don't matter where you go to school at the next level, you're one of the few that can play at the next level. And I mean, you have a great support system like your dad around you too, that is going to keep you on that right path, man. And uh, yeah, just absorb as much as you can, and from a lot of the upperclassmen, as you said, just kind of keep those ears perked up
Yeah.
and take it all in. But what are some of the funds you're having with it?
I mean, just being around the game, honestly, like today we played a 9 inning scrimmage, and
Uh
I threw yesterday in a scrimmage, so I didn't even throw today. But just being around good baseball,
huh. Uh huh.
it's just fun to watch. Like it's crisp, it's smooth. It's way better than watching a high school game of like
Uh
a
huh.
bunch of like small schools that like it's just sloppy. Like it's just, and I mean, it's just fun to see like good baseball.
What is I know you talk about the size and the speed, but what is something else that you just kind of take from the whole, just everything around you, like the experience of the training, experience of you know getting up early and training and trying to be the first one in, last one out type thing.
So I'm kind of like that myself. Like I'm one of the first guys that practice every day because I'm trying to make that impression that like I want to be there. And but just kind of stuff like that is, although I'll think I'm like getting there 30 minutes early, I'll think I'm early. There's guys that are even earlier than me because there's guys that get there that early because they have just more in-depth routines to like get themselves prepared. And that's kind of like I've kind of picked up on some things like that, like the mental, like more of the mental part of the game, like
Uh
and your
huh.
mindset. Um, like most of my like pitching stuff, I've been a starter, but now I'm kind of more of like in a reliever type role. So I've never like done like been in that spot, and I've kind of picked up on guys that have been relievers, like how to kind of just have that switch, like oh I gotta get hot and I gotta get focused
The
right now.
mentality change. Yeah, like
Yeah,
the mentality change. Yeah.
like you just gotta be
So,
able to that switch.
what advice do you have for the younger kids coming up who want to be in your shoes?
Um, I mean, you got to work harder and you got to get in the weight room. I think that's probably one of my biggest faults is I don't think I took it serious enough throughout high school, and it's really going to hit you hard once you get to college because the guys that you're going to be competing with have been there and they're working their butt off. So like you might think you're working hard, but there's guys that are working even harder than you. So really, I mean, you may be successful in high school, but you still just got to put your head down and get to work.
Hey man, it great to hear that from someone who is now experiencing it and going through with it, man. Wish you all the best of luck, my friend. And you're going to kill it, man. Just keep that head up and keep trucking along, man.
So being a
there's a
pitcher,
lot of great baseball around here.
Yeah, there
being
is.
a pitcher and being a weirdo, because they go hand in hand. Tell me, you cannot tell me you don't have some kind of superstitions. You gotta have something. Let's hear them.
I got you. So, I usually, like, whenever I'm starting, I stick to a schedule. Like, usually it's down to like a minute, 2 minutes. Like, I got to start playing catch this song before game time, get in the bullpen this song before game time, sit down this song before game time, don't talk to me before the game. Some other things like, no matter the temperature now, I always wear long sleeves because, I had a bad outing. I wore sleeves the next time. It went well, so I just keep.
You were fitting straight into every pitcher ever.
Yeah.
Another thing. Hey, go ahead. I got another funny question.
I was going to say that fits the narrative how baseball players are superstitious creatures anyway.
Yeah.
I was the same way, and even when I started picking up the game of slow pitch, I was the type that my left batting glove had to go on first. I had to put my left cleat on first, my left shoe on first, tie that up first before I put on my right one. Those little quirky things, or I drove this way, or I had 5 blue gummy bears before I went up to bat one time and hit a home run. That's what I'm gonna do next time. So you fit that narrative of baseball players are the most superstitious people there are. But go ahead, Hobbs. I know you had another one.
Are your coaches aware of the prestigious state record that you own in high school baseball?
I don't think so.
So the reason I asked that is I'm desperately waiting for the time that either I run into you or Dut and you petition to the coach and say, if you need a guy on base, I fucking got you. Coach, I have the record for hit by pitches in the state of Missouri. I will take one in the elbow for you.
That's actually kind of funny because yesterday we didn't have a guy to warm up a pitcher in the bullpen, so I had to go do it. And not gonna lie, I was actually scared because this guy was throwing mid 80s with like sink and cut, and I was scared. And then they were like, but I guess I didn't look it, and they're like, "Have you ever caught before?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, actually, it's what I used to." But
that's awesome.
See, that's what happens when they become POs. Yeah. They lose all the rest of that game experience, and then oh man,
I felt like a foreigner back there.
Well, I do have another question for you. What kind of stuff that you took from your dad that has helped you on the ball fields today? Now I'm going to put you in the spotlight since he's right next to you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you want to say he didn't teach me a damn thing, that's fine. But I'm going to put a little pressure on you.
Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with just IQ. Like, I think he had me around the game a lot at a young age, and even around like old men drinking beer and hitting softballs. But I've kind of picked up on that, and then he's really helped me with that, picking up on stuff. I mean, back to when I was catching, I wouldn't have been half the catcher I was. Like, I'll admit I didn't listen to him that much because I didn't want to. He's dad. But I mean, a lot of like catching stuff, like I don't think I was that good. And then a lot of the stuff, like just blocking stuff and knowing what to do when runners in certain spots and pitch calling and stuff like that. Like, I don't think I would have been at the level I was without him.
Now, I do have your dad did coach you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. This kind of leads me up to certain things. How did you handle your dad coaching you? Because I know you always hear the adage in the especially the youth baseball world, is daddy ball. And what I try to explain sometimes is, yeah, you have certain dads who do what the what the stereotype is. Then you have dads who realize that they will push their sons because they know their sons. What type of coach was he to you? And did it bother you?
See, I think a difference is with daddy ball, and more of what I experience is he actually knows what he's talking about. He's not one of those guys that's gonna hit your infield outfield with a glove on one hand, a metal bat in the other hand, it all up in the glove. Like, it wasn't like that. And it was more. He was more of an assistant. He wasn't really like the head coach whenever I was growing up. But I think, I don't know. When I was younger, I think I listened to him, but then I got a little older and I didn't want to listen to him because it's dad, and you just don't want to listen to him. But then again, it's like he still knows what he's talking about. So he might not have thought I was listening, but I still was listening to him. So I mean, I liked it, and then I kind of got to high school, and I don't know. Part of me, so obviously I liked it. And then I was like, oh, I feel like I can't. I don't know. I'm a big trash talker. I like to.
There we go.
Part of me just felt like I couldn't be that 100% with him there, which was just dumb. Think that, but I just felt like that, but it wasn't true in that manner.
Actually, I remember having a conversation where I think he chirped, and then I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he had the oh shit look on his face, and I was like, dude, go for it. I don't care. It's that's part of the game.
Yeah.
He had happened to coach in Legion Ball one year, maybe the greatest trash talker ever. Because I remember telling our sponsor to shut the fuck up in a squatted catching position in the middle of a game, and Coach Dutch sitting there going, holy shit, this is happening. I'm like, I think I'm probably going to have to go sit on the bench, but that's okay. That's okay.
And you did. Yes.
And I did.
Just to go along with the whole him playing for me, it got to a point where I stopped coaching him. And if something came up, I would tell somebody else to go tell him. So, because, yeah, I mean, and it happens a lot. Kid doesn't want to listen to his dad. Yeah. And so whether he's right or wrong, they hear it at home, and then the parenting at home, and then they don't want to hear, because a lot of kids struggle with separating coach dad. Yeah. And so they don't hear both. Because when dad is coaching you, all they hear is dad complaining or bitching at you for something, and they hear the words, but they don't hear the meanings or the purpose of those words. So it just got to the point where if he did something where I thought he needed to be corrected, I would go tell somebody else to go tell him.
Now, I'm glad you said that too, because now a question to him is saying, if you knew right now that, like you said, dad knows what he's talking about, and something wasn't feeling right, you could almost pretty much go to dad. Is that how you would feel?
Oh, yeah. I mean, looking back at it, I can just see how stupid and immature I was. But I think that, I mean, you start becoming a teenager, you think you're the shit, and you're not. So you think you're too big to listen to dad. So you just think, oh, I'm not going to listen to him. I want to listen to somebody else. When in reality, you're just wasting your time not listening there when you could be.
So has he ever said at the same age he was better than you?
I got a pretty good. Yeah, I've got a question feeding off of that. I got a couple good.
Has he ever said you couldn't be at my level?
Actually, so individually, he says he was a better defensive catcher than me, which I won't get wrong there. I couldn't really throw people out. I could block well, but I think I hit better than him. I mean, he hit 210.
I hit 217 my senior year. No, 233. 233.
Yeah. We actually had this conversation the other day about, could my high school team last year beat his team? And they would blow us out. But I don't know.
He had a pretty good group. Totally different baseball, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally
Yeah.
different baseball.
Games changed so much. That's
what I was going to ask that question. So with what Dave said, I was going to say, all right, so who had more power in high school?
Neither one of us.
Neither one of us. How many combined dingers in high school do you two have? There it is.
I hit a triple.
I hit a triple. I love it. I love it.
Well, I did too. I hit one triple in high school.
I hit 2 ground.
And if you remember, if you ever decide after the college baseball goes,
hold on. Let me stop. I got cut in real quick. You hit 2 ground rule doubles. You said, right? Let me ask you this: was this on all turf fields?
Yeah, and the wind was blowing. Probably.
No, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. All turf fields, you get that extra bounce.
Hey, one of them though, I went the other way, so like you got to give me some credit there. Right center. I mean,
he was late.
No, just let the ball.
It was late on the swing. That's what it was.
Now, if you ever get into the slow pitch softball after the college baseball, I'm going to need you to top your dad, and I'm going to need you to go a solid 205 on a dinger.
Yeah.
I need you to get it either at a Lexington softball field, and then I need you to talk all the shit possible. And I don't care where I'm at, I'm going to come see
it.
So going back to the who's better, like he called a phenomenal game. And I really, at that age, I didn't understand how to really call a game.
Yeah.
But he called a great game. He blocks well. He did struggle with throwing. And a lot of that, like his sophomore year, he caught. His junior year, or he caught and pitched. His junior year, he was a starting shortstop and pitched. And then his senior year, he had to go back and catch again. And it's just a totally different arm angle. And that's one thing that, and we talked about it a lot. He just struggled with the arm angle from catching. And then once high school was over, he went back to POing for summer and couldn't find the right arm angle to pitch. So yeah, he never, I tell him like he could not touch the way I threw the baseball from behind the plate. But I call a game like he did.
Let me ask you this. Being a catcher, has that helped you as far as pitching?
Oh, I would say so. It's helped me like with my sequencing a lot more. I mean, I pick up on more. I think I read swings a lot better too now, and I get in the mind of, and then also hitting my whole life has got, I just saw this. I think he's gonna throw this, and then I'm like, okay, he's thinking I'm gonna throw this. I'll throw something else. Like I think it all, like hitting, catching, it's all just helped me like figure out how to sequence hitters.
I always thought that if you caught and you pitched at the same, that if you ended up being a pitcher, that those times being a catcher would help you more being a pitcher, because then you start to understand that stuff a little more. Because by the sounds of it, you knew how to read that stuff at a young age, which is rare. And it's like your dad said. I mean, I think all three of us caught. It's a different ballgame, and you guys were more, intuitive of kind of what goes on. We were thrown back there in gear and just said, catch it, hold on to it, throw people out. That was it. You try not to get dirt in your mouth.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. How's you at that?
So we've covered that. So it's too funny. I just laugh about it because I'll never not picture him in our dugout. Like,
yeah.
No matter how old he gets. Like, I was telling Ashley after he was talking to us at the wrestling tournament. Ashley was laughing. She goes, "You guys could have talked baseball all day," and I was like, I don't think I've ever like encountered a youngster at that time that was around so much baseball and then into softball. And I mean, Dustin never thought twice about bringing him around any of us, if you remember. And it was a lot, and we were obnoxious, and he saw probably the best and worst side of every kind of adult male you can be. And I mean, and he's grown up to be a great kid. So if anything else, I think
Hey.
the awesome part of it too is he probably learned how not to be a pain in the ass and don't be like any of those guys.
He learned how to shit talk.
Oh
Yeah.
my
But
God!
he probably
If
learned how to
didn't
shit
learn how to
talk.
fucking, I've never had anybody call me out after having the worst softball tournament in my life and tell me I needed to hit more fucking dingers. Throw strikes and hit more dingers.
Well, man, I appreciate you. I'm kind of glad you were sitting next to your dad because
That's awesome.
To kind of get that perspective of your transitioning on to college, you're playing, and your dad to help coach you when you were younger, kind of hearing that side of it because I think one thing we all been through with our dads. If your dad's a coach, you want to block them out because you hear it. But to hear that, but what a lot of people don't realize is you always turned it back to dad when something's not going your way or something doesn't feel right. You're, like I said, something pitching, or hitting was a big thing, stuff like that. So, but man, I wish you the best in college, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Go out there and kill it. I follow him, Park, on Twitter. So, Park Baseball on Twitter. I try to follow all the local colleges and see. So, but good luck, man. Get out there, work your ass off, man. Sky's the limit for a young man. So,
all right, thank you.
So we can't not go into this because I told you we were going to, and I think it's important because I've never seen anybody transition as well as you have to this. So there was once a time that I know you don't like the nickname, but there was a time that on the ball team you were never as big as any of us, but the token fat nut to skinny nut transition happened. So let's talk about the transition when you finally decided to dedicate yourself to it. And kudos to you, because if there's anybody I've ever seen stay dedicated to something, and then in our conversation the other day when you actually admitted that you hate it, makes me laugh. But we really need to touch on and talk about the dedication you started with this running thing. I want you to kind of explain where all you've ran now, because I know you've been all over the United States to run, and some of your favorite marathons you've run, and when it clicked that you decided that, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to stick to it, whether it was running or how it is. And because I don't know how much weight you've lost, but I know you look great, and you've maintained it the whole time, and you've gotten significantly healthier over the years.
Yeah.
And I mean, because I know me and Dave have been along for quite the ride of it for the duration of what the last 20 years now.
Seeing it,
So
seeing the change has
we've
been
seen
amazing.
it all. So I want, because for who does tune into this and stuff, and me and Big Dave are a perfect example. Kind of go into that. Floor is yours with it. Kind of explain it. Tell me when it happened. I think I kind of know it, but it's an interesting story for everybody else.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, like, my parents were never very healthy growing up. My dad had major heart issues. My mom was a smoker, and my dad was late 30s when I was born, so he was older, and one day, I mean, my brother, who always made fun of me for being fat.
Yeah.
And one day, as a PE teacher, I was just like, I need to practice what I preach. So on May 5th, 2013, it's like, I'm going to go for a run.
Yep.
So I just started, I ran. When I got tired, I walked. When I caught my breath, I ran again. And I just so happened to do 3 miles. And the next day I went out, I was like, I want to run a little bit more than I did the day before. And for 2 weeks later, I was running 3 miles without even walking. And so, did I think that was going to keep up? No, not at all. But at that point in time, when I started, I was probably 250, 260. And the first 3 or 4 months, I dropped like 30 pounds.
Yep.
It just fell off.
Yep.
So then somebody's like, you should run races, 5Ks. I'm like, I mean, cool, I could do that. I'm competitive. And so, but yeah, like, I know I'm not going to beat anybody. So I'll go run a race, and I signed up for some free race in Trenton, Missouri. I had a buddy of mine, fraternity brother of mine, who lived in Trenton. He let me stay at his house, and I ran that race, and I won my age division. I was like, "Oh shit, I can win stuff!" Like, it's like, what the hell, I won. And so I was hooked right there. I was like, I'm gonna race, and I'm gonna have a chance of winning stuff. And when I say stuff, I mean, most races you get a medal for just finishing the race. Like, first 3 in your age group, you get an extra medal.
Yeah.
And so I call myself a medal whore because I love getting medals. So, so I ran a few 5Ks, and somebody's like, "You need to do a 10K." I'm like, "That's twice as far."
Yeah.
So like that's 6.2 miles. Okay, I'll do it. So I started running 10Ks, and somebody's like, "You should run a half marathon." I was like, "Hell no, I'm not running. That's 13.1 miles. No way in hell I'm running it." And so I went and watched that friend at the Kansas City half marathon. And I saw some dude that probably weighed 300 pounds cross the finish line. I'm like, if that dude can run a half marathon, I can run a half marathon. So I signed up for a half marathon. And it just so happened, it was Rock the Parkway in Kansas City, Ford Parkway. And it just so happened my mom passed away 6 days before that half marathon. And so I run that half marathon every year in honor of my mom. So I ran a few half marathons, and I just like, I'll do one full marathon. Just to say I did a full marathon. Just call it like a bucket list. So I signed up for a marathon in Cleveland. Several of my running friends do destination races every year, so they were going to go to Cleveland. So I was like, I'll go to Cleveland. So I trained for the marathon. Literally a month before the marathon, I get bronchitis, viral bronchitis. So shit's not going away. And I'm not going to cancel the race. I'm going to go run the race. So I run the race. It takes me 5 hours and 1 minute to run a marathon. And I'm like, this is stupid. I'm never doing this again. Like 2 weeks later, I'm with one of my running groups up in North Kansas City, and there's this little flyer for a marathon in Indianapolis, and I'm just thinking, it took me 5 hours and 1 minute. Like, I'm better than that. I can't let myself just do that. I was like, I got to be better than that. So I signed up and did one in Indianapolis, and I ran that in 4:29. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. But I'm done. I'm not, okay, that's stupid. I'm not, yeah. And then a friend of mine, it's just one of those things where the competitive nature that I have, it's like, I bet I could beat that. I know I can beat that time. And so I just keep signing up for that reason. And 11 is my favorite number, and I've done 8 so far, and I think I'm going to stop at 11.
Awesome.
But,
nice.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was going to say, what is some of the ones you've done?
So Cleveland was my first. Indianapolis was my second. Oklahoma City, that's really cool because that's for the Oklahoma City bombing. All proceeds go to the bombing.
Nice.
The memorial and like that. Almost every race has some sort of charitable donation of some sort. I've done Chicago twice. For that one, I raised money for Ronald McDonald House Charities. And so I'm doing that one again in October. So it'll be my third Chicago. See what else. I did San Antonio this past December and set my personal record there at 4:17. So what else have I done? St. Paul, Minnesota last year. And I'm missing a couple.
Did you go to Florida?
I ran a half marathon in Clearwater.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. So
do you have kind of for the 11th one? The one is the sit. Do you have one particular marathon that you're saying, I have to run it at the last one?
No, I don't. Like everybody says, well, you going to run Boston? Because Boston is the marathon.
Yeah.
You have to have a specific qualifying time to run Boston.
Really?
I'm only like an hour and a half away from that time.
I did not see. I guess people don't know that.
Yeah.
No, yeah, a lot of people don't. But my time of 4:17, I would qualify as like a 75-year-old man. So I'm nowhere close. So
Well,
and no.
Let me rephrase that. The normal people like ourselves would not know that you needed a qualified time.
Yes.
The avid runners that do that stuff, I can understand. But us average Joes who don't like running.
See, I'm fixing to drive.
But yeah.
Hey, man, go ahead. I'll see you at the finish line. I'll be down there just waiting for you.
I'll see you out.
Sitting in my car.
All those half marathons and marathon, you get a free beer at the end.
Hey, all right. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Now, I do have to ask you, because when I think, God, I hate it when we had to run in practices, but what is like the mental? Like, I think that's that's got to be more the mental side of anything when it comes to especially running marathons.
Oh, yeah. Like Hobbs said in a conversation we had the other day, I hate running, but I love eating. And so if I'm going to love eating, I've got to do something to counter that eating. And so that's why I run. It's because I know if I don't run, I'm going to gain a lot of my weight back. And so when it comes to a marathon, like right now, like my last marathon was in December. You train up to 20 miles usually. Most training plans, for the most part, and some of them vary, but for the most part, the longest run you do before a marathon is generally 20 miles. And they say you run the last 6.2 with your heart. No, your legs fucking hurt. You run them with your leg, but your heart gets you through it. And I go into
that's a good saying when you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I go into every marathon knowing it's going to hurt. I just don't know when it's going to hurt. At some point in time, they say you hit a wall, and you do. You hit a wall. I've been
Can
in
you
a
describe that wall a little bit?
To me, it's like you're going, and then all of a sudden somebody puts sandbags on your legs.
Ooh.
And you just have to drag those sandbags through. And it sometimes, I've hit the wall at 14 miles before, and that's a long ass way to run with feeling like you have sandbags.
Yeah.
Chicago, the first time I ran Chicago, I set a new PR before this last one. The first time I ran Chicago, and I didn't hit a wall till 22, but I have to walk some. I can't go run 26.2 miles without taking a break of walking of some sort. But I didn't walk that one. I was 20 miles in, and I was thinking to myself, it's about time. I'm gonna have to walk here soon. And then, ironically, Mason texted me, and I got the text on my watch. He said something like, "You're doing great. You're almost there. Keep it up." And I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, he's following me online, and I just got that burst of energy, and I was able to make it the whole way. And like I said, it was about 22 miles. I was like, "Oh shit, it really hurts now," but I was able to finish it there. And then funny, I got to 26 miles with 0.2 left. He texted me again, "Hurry up already."
That's great.
But yeah, I can tell you, like, crossing the finish line after doing 26.2 miles is a feeling like I've never had before in sports. It's just like, holy shit, you just went 26.2 miles. that is an amazing thing to do. It really is. And 15 years ago, if you'd have been telling me I'm going to be running 1 or 2 marathons a year, I'd say you're an idiot. There's no way in hell I'm going to do that, but I do.
Now,
but I'm
That's
ready
awesome,
to quit.
man.
you have, of course, you played team sport, and now you're what you consider kind of that individual side. Which one would you prefer to take? I'd say, what's more, finish that finishing line by yourself, or finishing that finish line with a team, as per se, like you win the championship?
I'd rather finish it with a team. I would. I'm more of a social kind of guy. I like the camaraderie of, and honestly, though, some of the nicest people I've ever met are runners. Runners support each other like no other. I mean, we go play a softball game right now when we might get in a fight and nobody be surprised. You get in a race and everybody, you're not racing each other, you're racing yourself. And everybody running that race is there to support you. But this is the camaraderie of being with a team. I like better. And I mean, I miss playing softball so much, but I tried doing that a couple years ago, and I was just, like, my mind was telling me go. My body's like, what the hell you think you're doing?
I keep telling myself
when I played softball, I just still couldn't do it.
I keep telling myself that one of these days we'll all be able to throw it back together for one little co-ed, or one just straight.
That'd be great.
Or if not a co-ed, one just like old man's thing. But then I'm like, all right, somebody's gonna pull something, somebody's gonna stroke out, somebody's gonna be like, ooh, I can still chug a bottle of Fireball, and then we won't make it through the fucking second inning of a game without getting rickrolled by 47.
So we know how Hobbs would end up.
I think we need to go back to Lexington or Norburn sometime.
Oh, hey, that would be a blast. God, we would be different now too.
No, that Norburn one, I would run a 5K before and then go play in the tournament.
Yeah, I remember. I remember.
You know what? I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah, I remember that. We're like, where's? Oh, he's just running the 5K right there, and then he'll come over after that and finish off the tournament with us.
Yeah, the 5K was at 7 a.m. First game was at 8.
See, me and Dut's angle at 5Ks when he first started was a lot different. So I could not wrap my head around it, and so I'm like, well, if Dut's gonna run a 5K, I just will try to drink a 5K, and see who made it to the finish line faster.
Yeah.
Well,
but no, go ahead. I got something to run into.
Well, I was basically going to ask, like, because we talked about the recovery side and how your son, the wrestling side, how he recovers after all that stuff. How do you go about recovering after running a marathon or anything like that? Because I'm sure it's a couple ice baths and.
I generally, like I said, there's beer involved. I get the one free beer and then I go buy my own. And I mean, generally, there's a lot of stretching. I don't do as much as I should. And my body's generally, the next day I'm a little tender. 2 days later is when I'm really sore. But I have a massage gun that I use quite a bit for recovery. And drinking a lot of water, and I will eat a lot for a couple of days just to refuel my body. But like this last one I did, I had the intent on, I had the goal of setting my new personal record. So I dropped 25 pounds from August to December. And so that was a big deal to me. And that's something, because your body gets to a form, basically homeostasis, where just like I ran so much that my body just got used to running that I would stop losing weight. I would, like I said, I eat whatever I want, and so I run so I don't gain weight back. But I got frustrated because I was wanting to lose weight. People don't understand that it gets to a point where losing weight is more of what you eat or don't eat rather than the exercise. I mean, like, but if you guys went out and started running, yeah, you would lose weight right away, but your body would get to a point where it's just used to that. And if you
The
don't change,
plateau. Yeah, the plateau.
that's
Yeah.
better. Yeah. But if you don't change your diet, you're not going to go any less. So I changed my diet back in August, and I basically just watched calories, and that's how I lost all that weight from that at that point in time. So, but it's more of what you eat than the exercise you do, and a lot of people don't realize that.
What are you more sore from if you compared the soreness? Obviously, the arm would be involved in the softball side of things, but 20.6 running it, or losing first game of a 2-Q and us having to play back through about 9 games in 106-degree heat.
Um,
how would you compare the soreness level?
Well, it's more of fatigue in the losing your first game and playing all the way back. By the end of that day, you're just dog tired, and the next day, yeah, you're sore. But running a marathon is much harder
Oh,
to
I can
recover
only imagine.
physically. Much harder. Yeah,
I can only imagine what.
literally imagine.
So, what is? I mean, because I mean, see you on social media and everything like that. What is some of the worst conditions you ever ran in, and what are some of the just absolute you could run in these conditions all the time?
If I had a preference, I would run in 35 degrees all year long.
Really?
I mean, it's you got enough chill that once you get going about a mile in, your body warms up enough where it feels great outside. Although when was it? Late October, early November, I ran a half marathon out at Longview Lake. It was blistering cold.
That's a different 35 degrees out there.
It was 35 degrees with 20-mile-an-hour wind coming off Longview Lake, and that that sucked. That first marathon I ran in Cleveland, it was probably like 55, 60 degrees and raining. So topping with having bronchitis and having to run through rain, that sucked. But race day, like, I don't run very many races in the summer because it's just too damn hot. But I mean, if I had a choice, give me 35 degrees.
Now, when you're running, what's on the playlist?
Let's pull that thing. First of all, I know
because I know, like when you work out or you get ready for a game, you put, certain songs in to get pumped up and ready to go. But when you're saying I'm running 20 miles,
I have the Tiger.
What do you have going through the?
Hey.
I have the Tiger, The Final Countdown, Living on a Prayer, Sweet Child of Mine, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Welcome to the Jungle, November Rain, Back in Black, Paradise City. How long do you want me to go, man?
Man, how in the world is Poker Face by Lady Gaga not on there?
Wait. What are those words? Words?
I think, it might be more of a fucker face, but
that's
neither here nor there. So so Dave, I don't know if you ever knew the story there. So I'm pretty sure now correct me if I'm wrong. So you know how when I started pitching, I used to have to get a little, well, not that I needed to pitch to get sauced up, but I'd get a little sauced up before I'd go out on the mound. And we all know that I was a firm advocate of I'm not wearing a fucking mask ever, unless I have to.
Yeah.
So give me a mouth guard, let me have a mouthpiece, and let me go out here sauced, and we'll be fine. Well, I don't remember, like, Poker Face, it just came out by Lady Gaga, and I don't know how me and Duck got on this, but, Duck played third all the time. And I don't know if it was him that started singing it that way, or if I did, but Somehow it turned into fuck your face and fuck her face and everything not poker face. And this would go on the whole game. So I would be getting ready to release the ball and look at Dut and be like, poke your face or fuck your face. And just, it never went away. So, like, fast forward years down the road in softball and still Dut, every time we'd play out of nowhere, you'd get a fuck her face out of
Well,
and I always laughed about it. It was always, I'm like, that goddamn Lady Gaga just won't go away.
Well,
what that year we played, I don't remember if it was Peebly. We took a Mustang.
Oh, yeah, that was Peebly, and it's 114 degrees.
Yeah, we stopped at Trops in Columbia. God, I can't think of that song that we always played.
Sail.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
So
every time I hear this song, I think of the white Mustang on the way to St. Louis.
Dave, I took the Mustang top down.
Oh,
Lord!
And we go to Peebly, and now mind you,
little NSA state, wasn't it?
Yeah, and of course when we go, like we're like, well, shit. Well, of course we got to stop in Columbia. So we go to TGI Fridays, of course, and then we go to Trops.
Well, okay. So didn't stop by. I mean, we all know I'm not a big Tiger fan by any means, but you mean to tell me you went to Columbia? And I understand stopping by Trops.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't even get a pizza.
Not that time. No. We ended up at TGI Fridays because we how ridiculous is that we were excited that they still had one. So
they still do. It's right next to the wrestler stay.
Mind you, we have the top down on the fucking Mustang. We get into St. Louis at this point. It's probably 100 degrees outside. Of course, at the time, everybody in the car's got a bald head, and we get stuck in traffic heading to Peebly, and we get stuck in traffic in St. Louis. I can't tell you, and of course, Dut's in the passenger seat after a 32-ounce Trops, feeling awesome in the sun. And I just was, I was a defeated man, but I was absolutely fucking refusing to put the top up. We'd made it that far. Well, that song where they go sail had just came out. I shit you not. We played that song 900 times, and then the whole tournament, 100 degrees outside. It was Run That Bitch Hot, Sail, and Hubbard with the mullet.
Oh, Lord.
Hubbard, if you remember, Hubbard had the mullet, and he'd wet it down and then shake it out. And that was people. I don't think people had ever experienced anything like us at that point.
Now, is your boy still sitting next to you?
No, he went to his room.
Oh, man, I was going to say that if he ever questioned your defensive skills, that you had two guys right here, and if he ever gave you a hard time, that can vouch to say you were probably one of the best third basemen that ever had the leather over there. It just, you were one of the best. I see Glovin over there, my friend. I remember that. And it was always fun playing with you.
And played it pretty even with the bag like a fucking psychopath.
He did. Well,
that was not because of being brave. That was because that's less time to think and fuck it up.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's either coming right to my glove or it's one step away. Because like when I played short, and if it was a hopper,
too much time.
I'm like, oh, don't fuck it up. At third, you don't have time to think about it. It's just catch and go.
Some of the greatest conversations I ever had in my life to this day were with you on third base and me on the mound, just looking over at you. And they might have been fucking 4-word conversations. I might not have said anything and been drunk. But the fact that I think you truly understood every look I ever gave you. And knowing you were over there, I'm like, all right, if they hit it at Dut, we got a chance here. I just got to duck because he's going to throw a fucking BB across the diamond, and I'm not trying to get plucked with this damn thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna turn this a little bit, and dude, I have to talk to you about being an educator, being in the education system for over 20-something years. I mean, what has that meant for you?
I truly believe that the good Lord put me on this earth to help people. And that's why I'm here. Like, that's why I'm in education. There were times early on where I thought about getting out, and a lot of people do now. and that's a whole nother story. But I love my job. I love having a positive impact on kids' lives, especially like I've been in my hometown for 9 years now, and um, I taught in the inner city at University Academy for 7 years, and I took a big pay cut to come to my hometown because I wanted to be there for what I say, my kids. When I say my kids, I mean the kids of my town.
Yeah.
And it means the world to me that I'm helping them
Back
out.
in your own community.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do have to ask you, since at one time I was an inner city kid. What was it like teaching inner city kids compared to, say, teacher out in Excelsior right now?
In all honesty, it's not much different.
Yeah.
Kids have the same problems in Excelsior Springs as they do in Kansas City, as they do in Liberty, as they do in Grandview. Maybe not the same problems, but they have problems. Everybody has problems. It doesn't matter where you go, you're going to have kids that struggle, and you're going to have kids that need you. And what I tell, because I'll be honest with you, Excelsior Springs gets a bad rap compared to Lawson, Kearney, Liberty, and in reality, like, we're no different than everybody else. The problems in Excelsior might be a little bit more exaggerated than Liberty's, because Liberty has so many more kids that those problems aren't talked about as much. And I feel it's the same way in Kearney. I have my educational specialist degree, and one of my instructors was a retired superintendent from Lawson. And that's something that he said. He said Excelsior Springs gets a bad rap, but they're not near as bad as everybody thinks, and Kearney's not near as good as everybody thinks, and really Liberty's not near as good as everybody thinks. Everybody has their problems.
Yeah.
You just have to find ways to deal with those problems.
I'm sure, because I hear a lot of my teacher friends say this. What is some of the advice that you would give the teacher when you first stepped in the door? And what was it like when you first stepped in the door compared to how it is now?
Don't try to be the cool teacher. I was 23 years old teaching 18-year-olds. I wanted to be cool. And you're there for a reason. Yeah, you can be cool. You build relationships, and then you could be cool. And that's something that is harder now than ever before, because you don't know what's going on at home. Yeah. And little Johnny might have a dad that's beating him at home, and he comes to school and he sees you're a man, and he thinks of what his dad did to him. So he thinks that you're going to do the same thing. So you have to find a way to build that relationship. And I think that's the number one thing you have to do as a teacher. And it's hard to do, because I'm fortunate. I'm a PE teacher. I get to have fun all day long.
Yeah.
I'm not expected to teach something that these kids are going to be tested on every single year.
Yeah.
Those classroom teachers, they have content they have to teach. They have to get these kids ready for the test, but they're also expected to build those relationships. So one of those has to give to an extent. Yeah, you can still build relationships, but you better get that content in, because if you don't get that content in and that student doesn't do well on the test, they're going to point the finger at the teacher, not the student. But in that same aspect, education starts at home too.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand is go ahead.
Oh, I have to say, man, your analogy about the little Johnny thing, about how that is probably one of the most realist things I've heard
That's heavy
from like an educator.
Yeah, that's heavy.
And dude, now that you say that, it puts, what you see is what teachers do, puts it into a whole you just gave me a whole different way to look at educators. And man, God, yeah, that was heavy. And
Yeah, that's heavy.
I mean, that is probably the most truest and realest thing that I've probably heard from an educator in a while. That is, my man, that is something else.
Like, when I was at University Academy, I had a student who witnessed his uncle get shot. 2 weeks later, witnessed his stepdad get shot and came to school the next day.
I remember this.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that happens in the education world. And people want to, I saw somebody post on social media a few weeks ago that teachers are failing our kids. We're not failing your kids. We're doing the best we can with what
Yeah.
Like I said, if you don't teach your child how to respect you at home, they're not going to come to school and respect their children or respect their teachers.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to get the education that they are allotted to, because they're refusing their own education. But who's going to be blamed? The teachers are.
I'm glad you said that, because it is true. And I think a lot of people, and I think it's the old adage is saying is, now it used to be when the kid got in trouble, the parents went to the teacher, said, what did he do? Let's all fix it together. Now it's the kid goes home and the parents go to the teacher, says, why did you do this to my kid?
Exactly.
And start pointing fingers.
Yeah.
And, I think people have forgotten that it takes a village to raise a child. And educators like yourself and many others are part of that village. I'm just huge on education. I'm very hard on my boy when it comes to making sure his grades stay up and all that stuff, and making sure that he's respectful towards teachers, his peers, and all that stuff. But yeah, a lot of what you said it's forgotten about. That we as parents fail on our kids I think we as parents don't look at ourselves sometimes, because we do. It's easy to shift the blame. And what's some of the easiest targets is teachers. It's your fault. It's your fault he's not doing this. It's your fault. But when he's getting home, are you making sure his homework's done? And you making sure, like, instead of watching TV, like, read a book for 10 minutes. Like,
because 2 weeks ago with all that crazy weather, we had AMI days now.
God, don't get me started.
Well, here's another frustration to me on that. I saw people posting, you're the teacher. I'm not the teacher. You're the teacher. I shouldn't be having to teach your kid. Okay.
That's probably, and maybe I was thinking that. I wanted to post it, but no.
But here's the deal. When you don't parent your kid at home, what do I have to do at school? I have to parent your kid.
Parent your kid.
So why am I parenting your kid?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take.
Well, and too, one of the things with that, what you're saying, like, me getting, being a stepdad, but becoming a parent, pretty much, one of the things is, I know how I was in school, and I make sure they're not anything like I was. And knowing now what I know now that I didn't know then, especially with that, is one of the things here is, and it goes off of what you're saying, they're piggybacking and parenting at school. One of the things here is, I have to teach these kids things that are life skills that they're not learning at school. And so if that means they, when Lawson doesn't do the AMI days anymore for this or that reason, I don't know. But when they were, and to this thing, you shouldn't have to be like, well, you're the teacher, teach the kids. Well, guess what? I got to teach them this. So if that means that I need to be responsible, and even if I don't know it, teach them the best I can, or get them in the book, or to make sure they're still putting the effort into it. I might not be able to teach it like a teacher, no, but by God, they're still going to open that fucking book, or they're still going to get on that computer and they're going to learn it. And that's you got to hold them accountable on that level, and that's what, like where Dave is going to. You see a lot of that not happening anymore. You're always teaching. As a parent, I feel like you should feel obligated to teach them in everything, whether it's like, I don't know nothing about no fucking Common Core math, but you know who does? Google.
No.
And I'll be goddamn, if I'm sitting here,
okay,
I'm like, hey, guess what? We're Googling this. We're going to find the answer. I might not know.
I have to ask a question. I do have a certain question I have to ask. Since we got an educator on here, and obviously I know both of us we've joked about this.
Oh.
What is it nowadays why kids are so lenient on with late assignments and turning stuff in? And
dude.
Spelling. Hey, I'm asking the educator, like, my son comes home like, you're in middle school, man. How can you not spell certain words still? Well, we just spell them like we're sounding them out.
That ain't it. Nope.
Well, I don't teach spelling, but the way things are taught now are much different than when. To be honest with you, I might get myself in some trouble saying this, but it seems like administration, and I've taught in multiple school districts, and it's been like this everywhere. They start doing a certain program, and they give it 2 or 3 years, and if it doesn't work, they move on to another program or style of teaching, and if that doesn't work, there's just so much change. And it's like, oh, it didn't work, so we need, instead of working on making it better, we're going to change things up. And that's why, in my opinion, that's why a lot of kids struggle, is because things change so much. Instead, like, I was in a conversation with somebody the other day about multiplication, like teaching multiplications. And I said, well, I learned my multiplications by writing it down 10 times.
Exactly.
Until I memorized it. And they're like, well, we do this or this. I was like, no. It worked when I did it, and I wrote it down 10 times because I hate the phrase practice makes perfect, because nothing's perfect. Practice makes permanent. Like you keep, repetition is the key. But no.
Well, you know what's crazy too is I always think this when, like, with that, or like, Carly's in 6th grade and she'll bring home stuff in the way they do it, and I'm like, well,
let me show you my way, which is going to be quicker.
What in God's name? And then I'm sitting here and I think to myself, I'm like, they're teaching it this way now, and now I'm no rocket scientist by any means, but by God, I'm doing all right, and I'm not exactly the dumbest box of rocks. I might not talk real well, but I can put 2 and 2 together, and I can still spell most things right, and I know where to put a period, and sometimes even a semicolon if I want to get fancy. But then you see the shit they do, and I'm like, what in God's name? Why are they showing you that? And I'm like,
parents get mad at teachers for that, but it's not the teachers that are wanting to do it that way. It's the program, like I said, that the teachers are made to teach it that way. Man, and that was part of the discussion I was having the other day with multiplications. They're like, we have to do, and I don't remember what it was, because I was like, I don't care. I don't have to teach that, but like, this is what we have to do. And then somebody's like, well, if I do it this way, like, just like you said, if I do it this way, I get the same answer in half the time than what you did it. But that's not how we can teach it. That's not how we're supposed to teach it. Like, okay.
Well, the last thing we want to do is get you in trouble with any administrators because of this podcast. But
I edited what I wanted to say.
Another question I do have is, and I know times have changed and technology is big. I want, from an educator's perspective, is having tablets, laptops accessible to kids more of a distraction for a lot of these kids than actually sitting there and trying to stay focused on learning, or, because the stuff they can get onto, or what, how they circumvent what they're not supposed to be getting onto.
The idea of the technology is fantastic. I feel the kids abuse it, though. They're using it for the right reason. And because of that, maybe we should go away from it. And that's just my opinion. But yeah, like I said, I think it's a great idea if it's used properly. I just don't think it's being used properly by the kids.
You think about technology it is probably one of the most gratifying and useful tools there is, and it's also one of the most absolutely terrifying and dangerous tools there are, because it's literally a double-edged sword. On one side, this is how you can learn anything at the touch of a button and a search. But literally, with that search, when the study hall time comes up, or any type of situation like that, when the wrong eyes are around you, or the curiosity strikes you, that same search can take you to a whole different place and cause a whole lot of problems, and open up a whole lot of education in an aspect that you're not trying to teach out of it, and that you don't want them to learn. And it's a scary thing that something so amazing and awesome, and that is a huge part of the world. It's giant to everything we do, can also be such an absolutely terrible, horrible thing at the same time.
Yeah.
What kind of impression do you want your now current students that go on to be your former students? How do you want to be remembered by? Let me put more like that. How do you want to be remembered by?
I want my kids to know that I care. I care about who they are as human beings. I remember one of my college professors told me, you're going to have anything from an inmate to a president. And my first year, a student from my first year was my first inmate. And then I've got a couple former students. One's a superintendent of a school, and I'll consider that my president. So, but I think one of the coolest things is when my kids come back and they still call me coach. Like, they're adults. They can call me by my first name, and they appreciate what I've done for them enough. They still call me coach, and that means the world to me. And I want them to know that, like, if you screw up in middle school or elementary or high school, and I jump your case for it, and I don't generally jump people's case anymore, but like, if I get onto you for something, it's not because I want to be mean. It's because I want you to be a better human being. You need to understand that the choices you make have consequences. And if you make that negative choice, you're going to have a negative consequence at some point in time. And these kids don't see that. And that's, I think that's going to be the case forever. And I didn't realize that as a kid. Like, you do stupid stuff, and you see at the end of your nose, you don't understand life until you get out there and you experience that. And then you think back, yeah, that guy knew what he was talking about. And so, and I think one of the coolest things that I've experienced is when a former student came back and was like, Coach, I'm sorry. like I was a jerk. I'm sorry.
That's
I'm like, yeah, I know, but I appreciate you saying something.
well. I do have one more question from me. I know that I have to ask this. What? How did you? It goes along with your boys and you being the educator. Did they absolutely have to hate that you knew when grade cards were coming home? That all you had to do was say like, "Hey, how's he acting today?" Like,
Um, with Mason, Mason was a straight A student. He was sixth in his class. I never had to worry about that with him. Although, um, I did have I was a middle school PE teacher and health teacher, and the first day I had Mason in class, he tried to be a smartass, and I looked right at him and I said, "I know where you sleep." He he giggled with the kid he was sitting there. He giggled. I said, "Oh no, I'm not kidding. I know where you sleep," and he never tried again. So, uh, but they understood. One, I'm a public figure ish type.
yeah,
Like, they have to be responsible for that, and
Hmm?
um, they also benefited. Like I had access to a gym or a weight room whenever they wanted.
uh-huh.
Wanted to go shoot hoops, we go shoot hoops.
Right.
So they
Yeah,
had special privileges for that reason. And Mason was always able to hold his own on the baseball field. But I told him at a young age, like you're gonna get to the point where somebody's gonna say, "Well, you're only playing because you're dad," and it happened one time. And so,
yeah,
but he proved himself on the field. Um, so, but I mean, that's they they learned early on that because I act a fool in school. Like I have a blast. I run assemblies, and they learned early on that dad's gonna act like an idiot. I'm gonna deal with it. And so I mean I really think they enjoyed that part of it. So
Well, man, I tell you what, buddy, this has been a blast catching up with you.
yeah.
One of the things about this show that Hobbs and I have kind of tried to do is applaud men and how they handle kids and being a father. Man, you're rocking it. You are. I mean, just you have one kid that we talked to earlier, and he's God, man, just to see that develop. I'm sure you're just gleaming with joy, and your younger one's killing it too, man. You're doing an amazing job. So kudos to you.
I appreciate it.
You know, man, you know, to see what people need to understand that there are fathers out there and there are men out there that care. And they're gonna not only be this way with their kids, but you as an educator. Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna take what you said about that whole little Johnny analogy and share it because that is, I mean, you did kind of open my eyes to a different light when you said that. Never because you never really think about that
No.
from the other side. So hearing that, you know, that was something. I mean, that was heavy. And I tell you what, I'm glad you said it. Um, you know, but yeah, man, keep doing what you're doing, brother. And I'm glad you came on and hearing about the marathon, the running, the whole teaching thing, and man, and getting a chance to talk to your son. You know, and his experiences he's going through right now with college baseball. So, you know, all the success with him, man, that's going to be awesome.
One thing he just found out yesterday, he thought he was gonna get a varsity roster spot. And throw out of the bullpen. And he found out yesterday he wasn't going to get it to start out with, and he was pretty disappointed. And I just told him, it's like it's a learning experience.
Yep.
Like just go out there and you're going to throw some junior varsity innings. Go out there and shove, do what you're
Yep.
capable of doing, and they'll notice.
Yeah.
And there's so many kids now, especially at the high school and middle school level, like they don't get what they want. They just start causing problems.
Yeah.
Mommy and daddy go whine and complain to
Yep.
the coach, or they go complain to the principal or athletic director. Instead of, you know what? Step up.
Yep.
Go do what you're supposed to do to
Work
win
for
that.
it.
But I wanna go back and say something about what Hobbs mentioned when I take the boys to our softball and our games and our tournaments, and yeah, they saw some stuff and heard some stuff kids shouldn't hear. And I had people question me, like, why would you bring them around this stuff? Like, here's the deal. You teach your kids right from wrong. You don't tell your kids right from wrong. You teach them.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yes.
kids knew that the language they heard was not appropriate for them to say.
Yeah.
They knew the things that they heard they aren't able to do. And yeah, they were 6, 7, 8 years old seeing that stuff, and they knew not to do it. I mean, you hear parents all the time say, "You know better than that. I taught you better than that." No, because you told them not to do it, but yet you didn't give them a consequence for doing it. That's not teaching.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with so much parenting now is, well, I told them not to do it, so they shouldn't do it. You didn't teach them not to do it.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between telling and teaching.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
You ain't wrong.
You're not wrong. Because I'll tell you what, I slipped one day, and yesterday I was at the dinner table with my kids, and the boy was doing something. It just did something real dumb. 12-year-old boy doing 12-year-old boy stuff. His little 5-year-old sister looks at me and she goes, "Dad, Bubba's being a dumbass."
There it is.
And
There it is.
in the context, it was perfect. And
Yeah,
I said,
there it
"Baby,
is.
what'd you say?" She goes, "I'm sorry, Daddy. I said ass, and that's an adult word, and I'm not supposed to say that." I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, but you're right, Dad. But brother."
Hey, yeah. Hey.
So, that stuff about what you just said, I'm like, oh crap.
Man, and your
But
boys especially, man, they having them around us and stuff, they saw like real life. I mean, I don't mean
Yeah.
that bad, but they really did. Like they they can't say that they didn't learn in the same process. You know what I mean? They were seeing, ball. We always chopped it up at the Little Ducks. When
Oh, yeah.
Micah to this day, like even when I see him, never been a lot with words. Not a talker. I don't think in the 10, 15 years he was around me, I got more than maybe a "Hey Hobbs," and that was it.
Yeah.
And at the wrestling
He said,
tournament I saw him, and I got the same thing. I got a "Hey Hobbs," and gone he was. Mason, boy, Mason sat right down with me and talk about every single thing in the world if you
Yep.
want to. And
Yep.
yeah, they heard a lot about shit, but I think that what you did great there. And like I said, we always give shout outs to dads and stuff. You were one of the better ones I ever saw do it too. And one of the things I always thought was cool is that you, like you said, you taught them right from wrong, and they knew not to do any of that stuff, but they also got exposed to real life early.
Yeah.
So I mean, so none of that shit was a shocker. Like
Yeah.
you're like, okay, this is. I mean, to be honest, they were learning about what men were early on. Like this is real men doing real man shit. Like listen to us actually having men conversations, whether it was about life or anything else, just being around in the camaraderie there. Like they got to see, like brotherhood and, everything that comes with man. You know what I mean? And they got to see emotions. Like they got to see grown men cry over a fucking underhand softball sport. They got to see us find out when, you know, something went wrong outside in life. They got to see
Yeah.
like real life situations happen and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But Dave, before we go off of here, there's another thing that we haven't touched on with Dut that I think is extremely important. That's
Why am I
also
okay.
that is also an amazing thing that a lot of people that know Dut know about, and some that are about to learn it. So through all this, there's Dut the educator, there's Dut the marathon runner, there's Dut the announcer, there's
And
Two
Dut
things.
the Lady Gaga guy.
There's Dut the Showman. So, real quick before I get on a serious note, touch on where the theater Dut came from. Because
Theater.
tell Dave what Dut likes to do also, real quick. And then one other thing we got to shout out to you before we get off here that I think it's important that we touch on before we get off here.
I love acting, and I've done several shows in our local community theater. Absolutely
Nice.
love it.
And
So,
how many have you done now?
Oh, I have no idea.
And
10, 15.
Haven't you been a lead role a couple times now?
Yeah, I've been a lead twice.
The man was George Clooney. We didn't even know it.
Yep.
I'm waiting for Hollywood to call.
And the final thing, and this is I don't mean to get emotional. Of all the things you've done, this is the big one. So, tell us about surviving cancer. And
yes,
and let's talk about when you found out you had cancer. What I mean, nobody ever can put into words how they're going to react to having cancer until, in your case, they get cancer. So, talk about the mindset that you had there and that journey, because that is probably the most amazing thing out of anything we've covered tonight. And that's why I wanted to kind of hope we saved that for last so we could get into that. That one tears me up. My bad, bud.
I love talking about it because, like I said before, God put me on this earth to help people. And the day I was diagnosed with cancer, I told people I got cancer because I'm going to help people. I'm going to help people.
Hell of a message.
Through this journey later on. I was diagnosed in 2020, like the heat, like COVID starts. I've got this fucking lump on my neck. I don't know what's going on. But I had surgery, had it removed. This is crazy because I was just showing somebody pictures of this today.
Mm-hmm.
So I was diagnosed with basically throat cancer, and it spread to my lymph node, and I had my lymph node removed, and then I had 2 rounds of chemotherapy and 35 rounds of radiation. And before it all got started, my oncologist said, "You're going to survive this. I'm just going to kick your butt in the process." And he sure as hell did. He said, "You need to start eating as much as you can." Like, I was in marathon training.
Wow.
Again, I was getting ready for another marathon. And I was in the best shape at that point in time, best shape of my life. I had run the first Chicago Marathon in October. I noticed this lump in my neck in January, and I was getting ready to run another marathon in late April. It was canceled because of COVID. But I was slim and trim and ready to go, and they're like, "You need to eat." And for the first time in my life, I was like, I get to get fat. I was excited. I literally went home that day and had a big ass bowl of ice cream. I was like, I get to eat because and so I gained about 18 pounds before my treatment started, and radiation, like all of my neck. It felt like, I mean, just think of the worst sore throat you've ever had, and it will not touch the pain I went through with that. And so it got to the point I couldn't swallow food. Couldn't swallow solid food. But within 4 weeks of the 7-week treatment, my diet consisted of soup or protein shakes and pain meds. And so, I kept the role of, I'm helping people. I'm going to help people, and I put my story on social media, and I had people like, "Well, you don't need to be telling people this." I said, "Yes, I do, because one day somebody else is going to have cancer, and somebody's going to remember my story, and somebody's going to fight for their life because they saw me fighting for my life. And I put nothing but positive stuff on social media.
And I guess I think I'm glad Hobbs brought it up, because I think I may have overlooked that and forgot about your journey, that you went through that. And yeah, that's I mean, hearing you say that, it's like trying not to get choked up myself personally right now. And it's not, I mean, what you're going through is because I just recently lost a cousin because of cancer. And as you're telling the story, I'm literally looking at his picture,
Man,
right above my computer, and he's got this shit-eating grin on his face, man. And hearing you say this, man, it's like just looking at him and remembering that, and it's just like, so it's like you're telling that story, and I'm like, ah, shit. And that's, I mean, it's an awesome story. And what you said is that you're doing it to help others.
yeah, yep.
And I think I didn't mean to interrupt you when all that was, but it was like you were saying that story, and I had totally forgotten about your story. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I just happened to look up, because I have my cousin's pictures sitting right above my laptop, along with my daughter's picture. And he had just passed just recently, he lost his battle with cancer. So it was like, now hearing your battles and how you're doing great, man, that's awesome.
I appreciate it. It's I don't even know, man. It's right now it's hard to believe that I went through it, because I mean, the world was a mess when I went through it. COVID hit, and I mean, the hardest, other than the physical, the hardest part mentally about the whole thing is because of COVID, I went through every treatment by myself. I couldn't have anybody with me. Like, I had friends drive me to the hospital for my treatments, but they had to sit in their car when I went in by myself. That sucked. That sucked bad. But I mean, that's life. You got to play with the cards you're dealt. And that's how it was, and that's how I had to fight it, and we did it. And ironically, one of my former students, who's in high school now, her dad was just diagnosed with the exact same form of cancer I had, and I had a conversation with him yesterday. And I told him, I can sugarcoat this, or I can be straightforward with you. He's like, I want it straightforward. I was like, it's gonna hurt, and this is this dude's like 6'4". I swear he's a former bodybuilder. I was like, it's gonna be the hardest, toughest pain of your life, but you're gonna make it through. And here's my number. If you need anything, you call me.
Man, and how long? So you've been cancer free for how long now?
When did you ring that bell?
I rang the bell. I guess that's kind of a misconception. You ring the bell when you're done with treatment. You don't find out until it was a couple months after that. October 10th, I believe. Yeah, October 10th, because my next Chicago Marathon is on the 4-year anniversary of when I found out that I was cancer free. October 10th. So it'll be 4 years.
That's awesome, my friend.
So,
hey, well, I'm glad you left that to the end.
Man, that was I was waiting. I'm like, we're going to touch on all the stuff before we get to this, because it was important to me that we covered all that good stuff. You knew we had to chop it up about baseball. You knew we were going to talk teaching. I wanted to make sure that, and when you and me had talked before, I wanted to make sure that I told you we were going to cover. I kind of gave you a heads up what I thought we'd probably end up covering. Yeah. There's a reason I didn't mention that part till the end and save that one for that, because I wanted to make sure that one came at you and you could finish off with that and like get you talking about it, because I know that's a huge message and important, and it's part of the amazing story that we've got to be a part of with the Nut.
Like I said, I enjoy telling that story. I really, really do.
Hey, it's a fucking beautiful story. Goddamn, you made me cry. But you know, what's new with that lately? Fuck, as I'm getting older, everything does it.
Before we go, well, I've been trying to ask people, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I don't care about my life as much. It's not about me. It's about my kids. I want my kids to be successful. They're both like Mason wants to be either a broadcast journalist or he's a multimedia major. I want to see him on ESPN.
Hell yeah.
I want to see him on SportsCenter, or I want to see him with some office at some university as an AD or a sports information director. Micah wants to be a lineman. He wants to climb those poles, and he's money driven. And I mean, money's not success, but I want to my life's not important anymore. But what I've produced through my kids, that's what's important to me. I mean, you guys, I've done a lot of stupid shit in my life, but you know what? I've raised two great young men. And
you are wrong about one thing, and that is that because you're an educator, that you have a lot to give.
Yeah.
So, so on that side of it, it's I understand the leaving the sons, but there's still a lot of lives out there yet to be touched. And as an educator, you could do that.
Yeah.
So
yep.
The floor is yours. You have any last things you want to say to everybody?
Yeah. Care about other people. Do what you got to do to take care of yourself, but care about other people. My kids could have very easily been a statistic. They came from a broken home. Their mother and I divorced when they were young, and people use that as an excuse all the time. Well, they don't have two parents at home. My kids haven't had two parents at home since they were 3 and 4 years old. But teach them right from wrong. Teach them how to be an adult. One thing that I always did with my kids is I would treat them like they were an age level above where they were. When they were toddlers, I treated them like they're 6 or 7 years old. When they're 6 or 7 years old, I'd teach them and talk to them like they're a teenager. When they become a teenager, I treated them like a grown-ass man. The longer you treat a kid like a kid, the longer they're going to act like a kid. Be responsible. Teach people to be better than you are. Because if you're not trying to get somebody to be better than you are, you're not helping this world. And if you're not finding ways to help this world, why are you here?
Man, on that, I will have to say, my guy, keep killing it as a runner, keep killing it as an educator, keep killing it as a father, and most importantly, keep killing it as a man, because you are doing that, my friend. Hobbs, anything else you got to say?
No, man, it's as like I said, we covered it all, and obviously it's been a pleasure to know you and be along the ride with you, even though we don't talk near as much. Life's that way. You always know that I'm right here for you.
I'll see you tomorrow. We go to Lathrop.
Yes, and I'm kind of pumped because it's the first time you're not announcing. And
yes,
it's funny because I was talking to Ashley, and I'm like, when I saw that Excelsior was on there this time, I'm like, oh, and she's like, what? And I'm like, Dutton Scotty Collins, and she's just like, oh god, and I'm like,
there are a lot of stories right there.
Oh, dude, and when I see Dutton at wrestling, usually, he's on the mic and super, super, super busy.
Got his hair and carry going on.
By God, he's got direct traffic for 200 meatheads that are starved, crazy little men in singlets ready to fucking kill everybody. So having to do that, it's hard to get much conversation time. So, man, thanks for being on here. Like,
I appreciate that you extended the offer out to me,
man. And it's like Dave says all the time. We want to celebrate men, and like Dave says all the time, it's huge that I don't think us as men, as Dave always says, is we don't celebrate each other as much as we should, and it's kind of one of those things where you go through shit, and it's nice to have, a shoulder to lean on, or your fellow brothers to chat it up, chop it up with, and talk everything. We haven't, and what's funny is, when me and Dave were since I've joined him on doing this, is how much we talk sports. But I don't remember the last couple of episodes. We get some sports in there, but
Yeah.
we've discussed so many more important topics, and like got to, if this gets out, anybody that sees this, like, they get to hear your story, Canuck story, all the stories that we're getting to learn, and just getting to learn everybody's story, and just bullshit and talk like real life with great dudes is a pleasure, and it's
And
I
we'll have
thoroughly
it
enjoyed
posted
this
on
talk.
YouTube.
Yep.
You hear it on Spotify.
Yeah.
Try not to. We'll make sure that some of your kids will mark it explicit, so your kids that you teach know what's coming. Man, we appreciate you being on and all that stuff, man. We're out of here, man. Appreciate it, my